Welcome to Networking Unleashed Building Profitable Connections, the show where the right conversations don't just grow your business, they change your direction. I'm your host, Michael Foreman. Most people think networking is about meeting more people, but what if the real impact comes from something deeper? The rooms you choose, the relationships you build, and the way those experiences shape who you become. My guest today built her business, Studio 790, through intentional strategic relationships. She believes that connections don't just create opportunity, they create identity. The people you surround yourself with influence how you think, how you show up, and ultimately what you believe is possible. We're diving into how relationships turn into revenue, why you should step into rooms you before you feel ready. Let me start that again. Why you should step into rooms before you feel ready, and how choosing the right environments can completely shift your trajectory. So, if you're ready to grow, evolve, and build connections that move life forward, not just your business, you're in the right place. I'd like to welcome to the podcast today Ann Lopez. She is the expert in all of this, and she's going to tell us all about her business. But first, Ann, first of all, welcome to the podcast. And
Thank
could you
you.
give us the cliff notes of how you got here today?
Yeah, thank you so much for the warm welcome. I appreciate that. How I got here today, Cliff Notes. Grew up in a farm town and realized there's more to this world than this little town. Went to college and then ended up in New York City, where I started my hospitality marketing career, which fast forward, the whole time I'm in that career, I had this burning sensation. I'm supposed to be a business owner. I'm supposed to be an interior designer. Ended up in Miami in my mid 30s and made a decision. Life is not getting any shorter, and I'm called to do something more with my life. And I knew that burning sensation was going to yield something, yield really good fruit. And so I took the plunge at 39, quit my corporate job and all of the bells and whistles and 401k and stock options to say, I'm going to start this business with no MBA, be an interior designer with no interior design training to do what I'm doing today. It's been 7 years and I have not looked back, and I feel like I haven't worked a day since.
Is great. What a wonderful story. I just the whole story from moving from New York, and the New York is the main place where everybody wants to go to show. Now I grew up in New York, right?
Ah,
I
amazing.
about 30 miles north of New York City in the suburbs of, and everybody wants to get to New York to start their careers. But I've been podcasting now for a little over a year, and it seems that all the greats have left New York and gone to other states,
Yeah.
which probably for a number of reasons, but that's where it is. Okay, so let me start. You built Studio 790 through relationships. What was the moment you realized networking wasn't just helpful, it was the driver of your growth?
Yeah. One, there's a key moment, and it's fun to talk about this because it was actually part of my vision casting for 2026 for my team. What I would say is I had this moment when I was in corporate America many years ago where I worked for the same woman who is still a friend, a dear friend and mentor of mine. And I shared with her my passion to be an interior designer. And I would talk about it and, share what I was doing on the weekends related to design. Meanwhile, like I had a different job working for her. And a lot of people would ask me, were you like nervous to tell your boss you really wanted to be doing something else? And I'm like, it never even crossed my mind because we had such a good relationship, and I I was doing a great job working for her. It had no reflection of who I was in the day to day. And me sharing that with her and being open and authentic in my relationship led me to an incredible job that she actually gave me in corporate America that then led to my first paid client back many years ago, even before I had the business. And so I just think your network, your people, and that could be your friend group, your church group, your boss, your colleagues, network means a lot of things, but in this example I'm giving, this was my boss at the time. And that one conversation changed the entire trajectory of my life. And I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah, that's it. I coined the term, your network is your net worth. I
Exactly.
I actually put that in my book. I have a digital course. I have it all written out. But it came to me years ago when I first when I first became a professional speaker, that was the whole thing. My network, my personal network. Now, I mean, AI comes into it. It's a tool and everything, yada yada yada. But it's
Hmm.
face to face. It's networking.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. You talk about relationships to revenue. What specifically happens in a relationship that turns it into a real business opportunity?
I would say, like, I think a lot of people, especially salespeople, get this a little bit backwards. And I'll tell you my perspective on it. And with relationships, if your goal is to get something from somebody, it's the wrong approach, right? It's always about how can I serve the people with the gifts I have to make their life better. And if you go into all of your relationships and all of your networking events and all the things that you're a part of with, okay, I'm in this room and I'm going to meet maybe some new people. Perhaps I'm with people I already know. But the mindset shift of instead of what are they going to give me and how are they going to get me revenue, instead turning the table to say, wait, how can I make that person's life better? Right. And I remember I've taken a lot of Tony Robbins trainings and Dean Graciosi, and Dean Graciosi specifically said this in one of his trainings, which is if you are not serving people, you're actually, I'm not going to say exactly like his words verbatim, he's much more eloquent than I am, but you're doing the world a disservice. And so you do need to sell your services, but not with the mindset of revenue, revenue, revenue. The mindset of if I serve this person and I make their life better, if I don't serve them, meaning I don't talk about what I do or what I have to offer, or hey, I have this business idea that maybe if you were a part of, this could help you in some way, shape, or form, then you're leaving a lot on the table in this world that we live in. And that really resonated with me because I'm like, I'm not going into rooms selling and trying to push people on, how I can help them design their spaces or help them with their events and their businesses and so forth. Instead, I know and believe wholeheartedly if they use my services and employ me and my team, their life will be better. So that I think is like a mind shift a lot of people need because I'm in rooms and the people that want something from me, it's obvious that they don't have the right mindset on that. And so I hope that helps somebody today because if you can shift your mind to go, I'm here to serve instead of I'm here to receive, the revenue will come tenfold.
I got news for you. Okay. This is called having a servant's heart.
Exactly.
You walk into a networking event, and I'll tell you, if you have that mindset shift, if you walk in saying, how can I help these other people? It takes all the pressure off your shoulders. You
Exactly.
walk in all free and everything, and you really enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've always employed when I walk up to a table, a networking table or what have you, and I have the attention of, let's say, two of the people, and I have them talking about themselves and everything, I always say, you know what? I like you. I like your business and how you do it. How can I make you more successful?
Hmm.
How can I be a good referral source for you?
Yeah.
And if I did my job correctly, they'll say, Mike, I don't even know what the hell you do yet, and you're already trying to make me more successful.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's going in with the servant's heart.
Exactly.
So you nailed it. You may have gotten it from your classroom training and everything else, but the fact is that you got it and you employed it,
Yeah.
and you'll go so much further with it.
Yeah. Amen.
Many people wait until they feel ready before stepping into bigger rooms. What changes when you choose to show up before you're fully prepared?
Well, I mean, I guess I would argue, is anybody really fully prepared ever? I don't know.
No,
Maybe I'm the only one that's not. But what changes, I arguably I think your whole life can change because there's so many people that just live in fear. The fear paralyzes them from getting into the room. right? And the only way to get better at stepping into a room when you're not ready is to do it and then do it again and do it again and do it again. And that's how confidence gets built, right? The
Right.
more you do something, even if you're not doing it amazing, but just the more you do something, the better you get. It boosts your confidence. Like, okay, I've been in a room like this before. I know what to say, or I know what not to say, or I made a mistake last time. I'm not going to do that again. Whatever your mindset is on it. But I think that getting in rooms that you're not ready for, it makes it a little bit more exhilarating. It makes you're on your toes a little bit more. I think too, there's something that happens in our brains when we're doing something that's not routine, that's not our comfort zone. That's when the magic happens, right? I think of that visual, you see it on Pinterest and on Instagram. It's like, the circle and the dot is outside of the circle and it says this is where the magic happens, right? And that's the analogy. Like if everyone could surrender their fear or decrease their fear to say, okay, I'm still scared, but I'm gonna do it anyway. That's a definition of courage. Get in that room because the power of one conversation in one room can change your entire life.
This is so true. I think of my BNI training,
Mhm.
and it talks about all of this. But
Yeah.
I tell all of my clients, I said, look, those of you who haven't networked, go out and network. Just
Yeah,
do it. Just listen. I'll tell you right now, you're going to suck. It's going to be horrible, but
exactly.
you'll learn from it. And the second time you go out, you'll know not to do certain things. And the third time, the fourth time, and it just goes on. And they constantly ask me about being an introvert, and I won't have time to go into that. But it's almost the same thing, just a little twist on it. But there's
Yeah.
certain things that they can do. How do the rooms you're in shape the way you think about yourself and your potential?
I, they always say get into the rooms or be at the tables where you're I hate to use this language, but like stupidest person. You're the least smart person. Let's use better language than
Okay,
stupid,
there we go.
right? But you're the least advanced. You're the least expert at the table or the room, whatever it is. That shifts everything. And I think that it takes your ego being removed for you to say, okay, I'm going to be in this room and wow, look at these people that have gone before me, that are ahead of me, and all that I can soak up from them like a sponge. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I don't need to use my voice the loudest in the room. I can sit back, listen, learn. And that in of itself, you walk away better. You walk away more equipped. You walk away learning a lot more than if you weren't the smartest person or if you were the smartest person in the room, right? And so I think that, I mean, again, maybe this is just me, but you're in your 20s, early 30s, and you think you know a little bit more than you really do. And you might be in rooms like, oh, I am the smartest one, and it sort of feels good maybe in the moment, but as you get a little older and a little wiser and you start checking your ego a little bit to say, that doesn't really feel good, right? To think that I'm right. Maybe it's not even true, but to have the attitude of I'm the smartest person, like that's not how I want to be a student forever. And so if I'm going to be a student forever, I better get in rooms where everyone around me or most of the people around me either bring something different to the table than I do, again, are maybe 5, 10, 15 years ahead of me in the same industry that I'm in, just give me a different perspective that helps me be a better leader. There's so many different benefits of being that. So I for sure I don't want to be the smartest or the best person in the room. I want to be at the other end of the spectrum.
Absolutely. And you're right on so many points in what you just said that we don't have time for me to expand
I
on
know.
every one of them.
Yeah.
But I'm in my 60s, and I listen more than I speak,
Yeah.
because by listening, I'm learning more about the other person. And when I respond to them, responding to them kind of what they said and my rebuttal, sort of. But I never think of the next thing that I'm going to say, because that's going to tell the other person I wasn't listening to you.
Exactly.
But if you listen more than you speak, the, there's a some I read this somewhere that if you speak more than 30% of your conversation, you lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's mostly
And
listening.
yeah, and I think I completely agree with that. And I think for women, or again, I'll just speak for myself because maybe men have the same issue, but I think that it's a hard skill to learn to do that. I think as women, we want to talk, we want to help solve. We get to like, oh, okay, I know how to help solve their problems when maybe they don't need a solution and they just need to listen. So it is a habit to practice and a muscle to keep using to get better at. Because again, admittedly, I'm in my 40s and I know I have room to grow in this area, absolutely. But if I compare myself to years past, okay, I've grown. That's the point. I'm never going to be perfect, but as long as I'm growing and I am listening more than I'm speaking in general, then everybody wins.
And you're right. Everybody does win. And I learn something new every day. I'm supposedly the expert in the networking field and I can tell you how to do everything. But if I'm not learning something new every day, then I am no longer the expert. I'm everybody else. So
Yep.
I have to remain a little bit ahead. So, what signals tell you that you've outgrown a room and it's time to find a new environment?
Mm, that's a great
Hmm.
question. I mean, I think it plays to what we just talked about, where if you, and I just talked about this with a colleague, if you've outgrown, there, it's clear, right? Because I think when you look at the actions and the outcomes and output of everyone at the table or in the room that you're in, and you see yourself as, okay, I was there before, and now I'm at a new level because I've been working at it, I've been reading the books, in the rooms, networking more. You can see that there's a disconnect there, and there's a delicate balance, right? Because there's also a time and a season that you should still be in that room because maybe you could serve. Maybe you still can serve people that need whatever it is that you have to offer in the season they're in. But I think like I've been in at these I say tables a lot more because I guess if you're in the room, there's probably a table you're sitting at, but you're sitting at the table and I'm like, okay, I've said this more than once. I've said this a few times and there's still some stagnancy there, if that's a word, right? And so it's time for me because often a lot of high achieving people, right, we're growth mindset. And so there's this balance of get in the room where you're not the smartest, grow, 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 and then you get to the place, okay, maybe this room I'm now outgrowing, but at least if I've given it a season to serve and to help the people at the table, okay, I'm ready to exit. I've done what I can do, and it's time for me now to then sort of cycle back into let me go into the room where I'm the student again, not the teacher.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. How do you walk into a room where you may not feel like you belong and still build meaningful connections?
I would just remove the thought altogether. You always belong. Like I don't let it get, if it comes in because we're human and it's gonna come in, as fast as it comes in, I'm training my brain to say, no, I belong here. If I didn't belong here, I wouldn't be here. Right? At the end of the day, if we wouldn't get the invite or the work event wouldn't have put you on the guest list, whatever it is, you wouldn't be there if you weren't supposed to belong there. And so I think that is the way I would answer that question is completely mindset. Nope, I belong here as much as everybody else. We are all here. Everybody belongs in this room for whatever purpose it's trying to serve for again, the season, the day, the moment that we're in, but I belong just like everybody else. So it's a mindset shift.
Do you feel that people get in their own way?
Of course. This is yeah, yes, all the time. All the time. People so much so that they will not, again, they won't even get in the room because they feel imposter syndrome. They feel, oh, you know, what if I'm intimidated the whole time? What if I don't know what to say? And so they're getting in their own way because they're closing doors and closing opportunities that the world, God, the universe, whatever you believe, I believe in God, but whatever that is, like it's open for you. It's open for you for a reason. And so you do step into it and embrace the uncomfort because again, that's where the magic happens. But we all get in our own way. It's rarely anyone else that gets in our way. It's usually ourselves in every aspect of our lives.
Well, yeah, if the person isn't important enough, you block them out, but you don't let somebody get in your way, including yourself,
Yeah,
unless you allow it, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So,
And we're not allowing it. We're not
no,
allowing it. No.
right. That sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's not, but we're not going to go into there.
Yeah.
Okay. You emphasize genuine relationships. What
hmm
does genuine actually look like in a networking conversation?
Genuine is like synonymous to authentic. And I think that I imagine a world, what would the world look like if everyone was even, let's say, more authentic, maybe not completely authentic? I think that the entire world could change because we get in these rooms and we feel the need to, you know, talk about our credentials or talk about all of our highlights and things like that. And I think for me anyway, how I act, but also how I've witnessed other women and men, the ones I'm connected with the most are the ones that are like, man, I had a hard day. We lost a client. This thing happened. My kid's going through this thing. Whatever those things are, you've connected humanity at that point. Okay, you're not perfect. We're all on the same, you know, the same page, right? And so it frees us and it allows for a better, like, you're going to walk away a lot better after a genuine connection. And that genuine comes from, like, talk about who you really are. And if who you really are means you had a bad day, or I'm in a career transition, or everything's really, really good, but I'm going through this divorce, it's been a little bit hard. There's an instant humanity connection there. And I think, again, people don't want to do it because what if I get judged? What if I don't want to go too personal? And I agree. Like, you don't meet somebody and then, open up about every problem, your therapy session notes that you had this week. Of course, you have to have a high EQ to balance that. But I think there is this, let the guard down a little bit, be who you are. And you're going to find the other person is going to rest their shoulders a little bit and go, we're just normal together. We are all in this together. Maybe you make a little bit more money, but we're all still, there's still a connection there. So I just think being your true self. And then to your point earlier, you can walk in that room already free. You don't have to
Yeah.
act. You don't have to pretend. You don't have to get out your highlight reel. Okay to share some wins, okay to, connect with people on some of those things. Of course, it's not bad inherently. I think it just becomes bad when it's just the posture always of I'm going to be perfect and I'm going to be perfect. Like, when I walk away from people like that, I don't feel connected to them. I don't feel like I learned anything. It sometimes can make me feel worse about myself. That's my own issue, not theirs though. So I just, be yourself.
Yeah. Well, authenticity is what everybody's after.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a new buzzword for
Yeah.
now because everybody networking is trying to be authentic and the authenticity. But there's a lot more that goes being into being authentic. First of all, you said it the best. You have to be yourself,
Yeah.
right? Whatever that looks like, because if you're not yourself and you start this relationship, they're going to find out your true self later on. So whose
Exactly.
time are you wasting? You're wasting everybody's time.
Everybody's time is wasted and it doesn't feel good. You come back from something like, an event or wherever you're at and you feel exhausted because you sort of had to be a version of yourself that wasn't fully you. That's, I don't know, it's not a fun way to live.
I used to do that. I used to come home from networking events and I was exhausted because I
Yeah.
always felt I had to be on the whole time.
Yeah.
And now when I go for the past couple of years anyway, I just go and have a good time. I'm on
Yep.
myself.
Yep.
If what I do comes up, that's all the better,
Yep.
but it's true. How does your identity, how you see yourself, affect the types of people you attract into your network?
I love that. And I think I've really started learning and embracing this in my 40s. So maybe if somebody's younger listening, we can help them earlier on. But when you get to a place of your life that you love yourself, that changes everything. It changes the trajectory of your whole life. And I think a lot of people struggle with that identity of I don't love myself. And maybe they don't say it like that, right? I think it feels like big and it might feel a little emotional, but I think at the core, that's what it is. And so for me, the moment that I realized, like, I love myself, even the bad parts, even my past, even things like, and I love the good things. I love the gifts that God gave me. I love the strengths that I have, all of it. When you get to that place of, like a harmony that happens, you then attract, I think it goes again back to authentic connections and relationships. People are going to feel that. They're going to sense that. And that's who you want in your circle at the end of the day. Like the person who knows almost all of you and is like, yeah, I like that person. And I know maybe she doesn't have it all figured out, or she had this past, or she did this thing, but here she is, and here's where she's, here's how far she's come, and so on and so forth. I think that that's been massive for me because, if you love yourself, there's just this, I don't know, I think there's a beautiful energy that happens, and people see that and feel it, and they're attracted to that. Yeah, I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And, I had this talk with my wife several times. If you go back in time and say, oh, that was so horrible. That was such a hard time in my life. I want to just take it out of my life.
yeah,
But if you take that out of your life, you're
mm,
not the same person now.
yeah,
And if you love
exactly.
yourself now, well, then what type of a person will you be? And you're really
Yeah,
not, so you might as well just take the whole thing, but you keep the people within your inner circle, the people that you trust, the people that that, where you don't have to think about how to act,
exactly.
all within yourself. Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I mean, I can do a whole separate podcast just on that.
Yeah.
Um, for someone going through reinvention, how
Mm,
can networking help them step into the next version of themselves faster?
mm. I think it's one of the most critical paths to take when you are reinventing. And I think it is important to like really define networking because I think maybe lay people think about a traditional like networking event, like come to a bunch of strangers and you know whatever. That is one. And then there's your circle, your secondary circle, again, church groups at your kid's school. There's a lot of different touch points where there are groups of people where you socially connect with, right? So if we could define networking a little bit, I think that when you're in reinvention, hey, I started my own business. It's crazy. It's amazing. This is what's going on. So, heads up, if you have, if you know of anybody, I just want to share. It's really exciting. This is what's going on in my life. People want to hear what you have, what's going on in your life, and you plant that seed to them. And maybe, again, that seed could bear fruit in a short term, or it could be a long term, or it could be never. And that's okay too. But I think that you have to communicate, like, here's what's going on. And, you know, I'm here to serve. I have this design business. And in fact, it happened at my daughter's school when this was not fully during my reinvention, but not long after I started the business. And I had said, if they need help at the school, it's a Catholic school. Budgets are not always big at little Catholic schools. And so they brought us in to do some pro bono work. And it was such a joy for my team to serve and do this work. And then other, moms and parents notice, oh wow, you did the teacher's lounge. It looks really good. And I have this project at home and we've gotten, some connections that way. And that's a really tiny example. But I think it matters. People, you have to share what you have going on, even if it's vulnerable, even if you don't have it all figured out. People want to know, and most people want to help you. I think we're all born with this desire to help others. And so yeah, I can't tell you how much support I got during my reinvention. So
Yeah, and outside of what you had just said, which was fantastic, by the way, but there's an outer ring to that networking circle. That is the department stores, that's the grocery
yeah.
stores, that's outside the ice cream shops. I speak to high schools. I talk about Gen Z and why they're not getting jobs and everything else. I also speak at universities. I speak about the same thing with that, throw a little leadership in there. But what I tell them is you're with your friends, right? You're networking with your friends.
Yeah.
So practice what you're going to do in
Yeah.
business. because no, don't must start right now,
Yeah.
And when you're talking over your friend, that's a no-no. When you're not listening, practice listening. Respond to what they say. And first of all, it's like, what are you talking about? I never do that, but it's a hard talk to give, but I give it. And usually the teachers and professors come to me afterwards. The students don't, but the teachers and professors do.
Mhm.
But that's a whole not again a whole nother conversation.
It
All
is.
right,
It is.
let's bring this podcast full circle. If a listener wants to change their trajectory over the next 90 days, what one decision about the rooms they choose would make the biggest impact?
I would say, what one decision here's what I would say to that question, by the way. Took me a second, but I have it. I have it. It is to make the decision to get into the room. Here's what I mean by that. So that might seem like a flat answer, and that's okay if somebody, believes that it's that way. But what I would say is, because people have asked me, how did you do this? How did you get that far? How did you know how to do this accounting thing or this finance thing? And you just started doing this business thing not that long ago. And I tell them I invested in myself and I got into the rooms. I took the training. I flew out to California to an interior designers retreat where I knew nobody. I did a free webinar with Dean Graciosi. I then invested and went to Tony Robbins UPW. There's all these touch points. And most people that I talk to, they're not even doing any of that. They're going to work, coming home, hanging with their friends for dinner, going to bed, going to work, coming home. Maybe they go to the gym, right? They get into a routine and a comfort zone. And when I tell them, like, oh, yeah, like I go and I do these things and I invest usually one or two things a quarter. And it could be something bigger, like a week-long training, or it could be a half a day seminar that is going to help my skill set and help me become a better person, help me meet a lot more people. I can tell you with certainty, and I just did a business session with interior designers recently where one of the game changing moments in my career was the first year of my business where I knew almost nothing in my, the new field that I was in. I said yes to flying out to California to a designer's retreat with 30 women. I didn't really have the money like to do it, but I'm like, I know if I get into this room, I'm going to learn a lot faster than if I try to do it on my own for the next couple of years and so on and so forth. That alone, I grew my business from next to nothing to decent revenues only in 18 months after doing that. And I met people. I stayed in contact. Hey, I have this question. I don't know how to do this. What do you use for this thing? So then I created a micro network from that event that I went to. I got my return on investment times probably 100 times my return on investment from my time and the airfare and everything I invested into it. So that's an example where a lot of designers are like, oh, I've never even been to anything like that. So to bring it full circle, it is just make the decision. Look at what events are going on in your city through your community, your church, the field that you're in. It's 2026. There's no excuse anymore. There's so many opportunities. So say yes. And in the next 90 days, schedule it, put it on your calendar, pay for it, and believe that it is going to bear fruit because it will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this was absolutely fantastic. You were just a great guest.
Thank you.
If anybody wants to get hold of you, either to speak with you, be coached by you, to get your services, or just to say hi, what's the best way they can get hold of you?
I love this. Just say hi. You can find me on Instagram, which is Ann Lopez Living, ANNLOPEZ Living. I'm really good about checking DMs and so forth there. And then you can find my business at studio790.com. Those would be the two avenues. There's a contact form, my email is there, and we can connect any of those ways.
Fantastic. This conversation is a reminder that networking isn't just about who you meet, it's about who you become in the process. The rooms you enter, the people you spend time with, and relationships you invest in all shape your thinking, your confidence, and your future opportunities. Take one step this week. Choose one room, one event, or one conversation that challenges you to grow. Growth often begins the moment you step into an environment that stretches you. If you found value in today's episode, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to Networking Unleashed, building profitable connections so you keep getting the best insights on networking and communication. And share this episode with someone who's ready to step into bigger opportunities. If you'd like help strengthening your communication and building relationships that truly move your business and life forward, visit michaelaforeman.com to learn how I work with professionals, teams, and organizations. So until next time, check your rooms wisely, build relationships intentionally, and create a network that shapes your future. And thank you again for coming on the podcast. You were wonderful.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope this helps somebody. Power of one room, one connection, change your life.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, hold on, folks. Don't go anywhere. Let's hear from our sponsors. David Neal, co founder, Revved Up Kids. Revved Up Kids is on a mission to protect children and teens from sexual abuse, exploitation, and trafficking. They provide prevention training programs for children, teens, and adults. To learn more, go to revvedupkids.org. Henry Kaplan, Century 21. When it comes to making the biggest financial decision of your life, leave it in the hands of a proven professional, Henry Kaplan. Henry is a global real estate agent with Century 21, celebrating his 41st year in business. No matter where you're moving, Henry has the right connections for you. You can contact Henry at 561 427 4888. A huge thank you to our guest for sharing such incredible insights today. And of course, a big shout out to you, our amazing listeners, for tuning in and spending your time with us. If you're interested in my digital courses, being coached, or having me come and talk to your company, just go to Michael and fill out the request form. Remember, networking isn't about being perfect, it's about being present. So take what you've learned today, get out there, and make some meaningful connections. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with someone who could use a little networking inspiration. Let's keep the conversation going. You can find me on Apple, Spotify, Pandora, YouTube, or my website, forman.com/podcasts.